What is Red Tornado's favorite party game? Twister? Hi, and thanks for stopping by. In today's Comic Book Editions video, I want to give you an update on how my Justice League of America collecting goal for this year is going. Welcome. Before we get started, I have some JLA member-related items to share with you, starting with these cute little plushies that were given to me by my work wife. These are called Pod Pals, and here we have Superman and Batman. I had never seen these before, and I went online to look, and there is a Wonder Woman that was made for this line, so I definitely have to get her to be able to complete the Trinity. I still think that the work wife is feeling a little bit guilty over accidentally pepper spraying both of us last month. So in a nutshell, if you didn't hear the story, here's what happened. She got into work. She had not even been there 5 minutes. She opens up this drawer. She sees an item. I thought it was lipstick. She opens it up, but it had a little spray, so she thought it was perfume. So she sprays it just to take a sniff of it. So she takes a sniff and she kind of goes, ooh. And then it kind of drifts into my area where I was. In 15 seconds, both of us are in the back, coughing and tears coming down our eyes. And we're not doing well. She accidentally pepper sprayed us. So I love my pod pals. And I still think this is the work wife's way of feeling a little bit guilty over the pepper spraying. But I'm going to take it anyway. I do have to find out where she got these at so I can get a Wonder Woman added into my collection too. It's a funny story now, maybe not so funny at the time, but a funny story now. So thank you, work wife, for thinking of me. And the day she brought these, I was having a really bad day at work too. So this definitely helped. While I'm talking plushies, not from the same line, but over at Walmart, I found this Wonder Woman plushie. I love the look on her face, and it was too cute to leave in the store, so I ended up coming home with it. What do you think? Pretty cute, huh? And in that same trip, I also found a Wonder Woman Hot Wheels that I didn't have for my collection. So if you have an Invisible Jet, not exactly sure why you need a car. I always thought that was curious too in the Hot Wheels line when they would make a car for Flash. But then it was explained to me that Barry Allen has to have something to drive, right? I guess that does make sense after all. But a couple non-comic book things that I've recently added into my collection. Let's start showing some comic books today. And I want to start with some recent Wonder Woman incentive variants. This is last month's issue number 7. And this is the Jorge Molina 1/25 incentive cover. So this was a fun story. It's Superman and Wonder Woman going to an intergalactic mall trying to find a birthday present for Batman. And it's a very lighthearted story. You know, this Wonder Woman run's been pretty deep and pretty heavy, so it was nice to have a little one-off comedic relief issue. Wonder Woman has had a lot of covers every month, plus incentive covers, but luckily for issue 7 and for the current issue, issue 8, they only have one incentive cover because it's those incentive covers that keep jacking up, you know, my weekly bill at the LCS. And the incentive cover for the current issue number 8, is a Joshua Swaby. So it's a Sway variant. And I'm a Sway fan. This is another great art piece too. So this issue essentially is Wonder Woman versus Sovereign. And he's got her tied up in the lasso of lies. And she's kind of being redirected to thinking, you know, her place in life is as Steve Trevor's wife, a la 1950s. But very good cover here. Including this incentive, they only had 4 covers for this issue, which I am good with. Financially especially, I'm good with, because when I'm buying all these ratios or store exclusives that cost a lot more money than the normal cover price, that takes away from me being able to get back issues into my collection. And I love my back issues. Let's get into the heart of today's video. I said I wanted to do an update on my Justice League collection. So in Comic Book Editions, volume 188, just last month, I showed you John's Comics with Kids A-OK'd me at Justice League of America number 5. So now I had the first 12 issues in my collection. Well, I wanted to show you some other issues that I was able to get into my collection as well for JLA. So the goal is to complete the entire volume 1. This is issue number 97 with a Neal Adams cover. 1972, this was published. So Starbreaker defeats the Justice League. Essentially, they find out that he feeds on negative emotions. But as they're trying to figure out how to be able to defeat him, they go back and revisit essentially their origin. And they use the actual pages from JLA issue number 9, which told the origin of the Justice League. And oh my gosh, very early on my YouTube channel, I showed that in a comic book editions video because I have a very nice quality copy of that issue too, which I love. But they decide that they need positive energy to counteract this negative energy that he feeds on, and Sargon the Sorcerer ends up arriving at the end of the issue to help them out. Of course, Dick Dillon's doing the interior art at this time too. This is an issue, I have to say, in the wild, I don't see all that often. I ended up buying this online. I was looking at a place that I regularly look at, and when this ended up as a new back issue edition for them, I'm like, you know, I like never see this issue in the wild. I never see it at cons. I don't know if it's a local thing for me or whatever, or a regional thing. But when I saw it, and it definitely was in my budget, I'm like, yep, I'm snapping that one up. Another book that's in the same vicinity is, for me, meaning that I don't see it a lot in the wild, I don't know if it's a regional thing or not, is issue number 99. I did not pay that $25 price tag that's on this, but this is in very nice condition as well. 1972 as well. Neal Adams also doing the cover for this. So we have these aliens that come down and want to turn Earth, essentially crank up the plant life in Earth and make it more sustainable for them. Or they don't like, it's almost kind of like another pollution sort of story, which they were doing early on in the Bronze Ages. Pollution became a worldwide topic, a new hot topic, essentially back then. And that's what this issue is about. There's like this crazy Johnny Appleseed character and everything. And finally the Justice League's able to defeat them, but they have these wild plants going on. I couldn't help but wonder and thought it was a missed opportunity by not somehow including Poison Ivy in this story, because she definitely was an established character in DC by this time. But I thought, you know, if they came down and started doing this and Poison Ivy saw what was going on, like she could, you know, aid these villains and really cause harm to Justice League. I think, but you know, they didn't think that way back then. And that's just wishful hoping on myself, because that's Poison Ivy's not in this story at all. And that's not how the story goes. Incidentally, two other features in here. We have an Adventure Comics 51 story with Sandman from the Golden Age. It was an all right story. It almost felt like it was an incomplete story. I don't think it was, but it just, the story just, like, for me, at least when I was reading it, like cut off real fast. I have a hard time with rereading a lot of these Golden Age stories that they were including as extras at this point. They just don't age well for me. Then there's a Golden Age Adam story, which originally took place in Flash Comics number 98. And in that story, Adam is able to even push a locomotive backwards. And I know that Adam is super strong, but I didn't think he'd be strong enough to push a locomotive backwards. So I thought that was a little weird. And if I'm remembering correctly, they have a letter in here talking about how they're not going to do Golden Age reprints after this month's DC Comics. Instead, they're going to do extra stories, but they were going to be original stories. So, which I, as in reading them, appreciate a lot more. Like I said, I just can't get into some of the secondary stories. So, of course, that would end up changing later on, as I'm about to show you in my next book. This is Justice League of America, Volume 1, issue number 110. Now we're up to 1974. Nick Cardy doing the cover on this. And this was a story that I was like, how am I so familiar, you know, with this story? It's been reprinted a number of times in some of the DC Comics Christmas specials or one-shots they did. The Justice League of America Bronze Age Omnibus obviously has it reprinted as well. This is a key issue for being the second appearance of John Stewart. And the Justice League, when he shows up, because Hal Jordan's unavailable, so the Ring goes and pulls John Stewart. And he shows up, and Justice League is like, who are you? And the Ring finally has to explain what's going on, which kind of gives him his credibility. The key is the villain in this story, and we also have a Phantom Stranger appearance as well. Plus, another notation is Red Tornado gets his brand new costume. The costume that I like a lot better, the yellow and red one. In this issue, it ends up being a gift, and it was created and sewn by Black Canary herself. So by this point, after saying in 1972 they were done with reprinting comic books, they threw in some more reprints. By 1974, they were back into it. There's a Justice Society of America story from All-Star Comics number 40 reprinted in here. And then a Justice League of America story, issue 51, which involves Zatanna. And I talk more in depth about that issue because I have an original copy of that issue. And I talked about that in my Comic Book Editions volume 167 video. So with the addition of these 3 JLA comic books into my collection, plus the John's Comics with Kids A-OK of JLA number 5, so far I have 10 JLA comic books that I've added into my collection so far in 2024. The goal is to get 12 a year for 3 years. So I'm only 2 away from completing my 2024 goal. I hope to still go a little bit further than that. And I'm feeling pretty confident of being able to get 2 more JLA books into my collection before 2024 is over. I'm feeling pretty good about that. But like I said, I'd like to get a lot more than just 12 this year. So, and really knock that number down. But I think that puts me at maybe, 26 books total that I need for the entire run. There's some I'd like to upgrade to, but 26 books overall. And as I talked about John Stewart being in this book, his second appearance, for the funsies of it, I don't always show these much because these aren't ratio incentives. They're not hard to find. But I did pick up John Stewart's very first appearance in Green Lantern, Volume 2, issue number 87. I had never read this book before. I had thought I had, but I hadn't. I knew when I was reading it, I'm like, the artwork does not look familiar. The story does not sound familiar to me at all. And I couldn't decide what to go with, the regular, the blank sketch variant, which I came close to picking that up, but instead I just couldn't resist the foil. I love the foil. We're definitely in the foil era, and I did decide to pick that up. I've been picking up some of the facsimiles that they've been doing like this in the foil variants. I did for the Brave and the Bold 54, which has Robin, Aqualad, and Kid Flash teaming up before they called themselves the Teen Titans. I picked that up. There was a Detective Comics one with Ra's al Ghul that had a foil variant, and I picked that up as well, and among a few others. So the X-Men 130 over in the World of Marvel with first appearance of Dazzler. I got the regular and the foil facsimile, and even have an original too. But I just thought this was kind of fun to show since I was showing a lot of different JLA member stuff in today's Comic Book Editions video. Do you have any of the books that I showed? Which was your favorite? I'd love to dialogue about all of this and more in the comments section below, so make sure to leave me a comment. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please do that. Help a brother out. Sharing the channel and this video with someone is a great way to show support and help eventually get me to the 1K goal, which is the goal for the channel. Fanboys Live and the Retro Review, the greatest DC comic show on YouTube, comes up this Sunday at 8:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Central. We'd love for you to join that. And when I say we, I'm talking about Comic Food 2814 and Signature King Tony Fett, who will join me on the show as they always do. That's your regular panel. And one of these days, we'd love to get Tim the Comic Collector back on the show too. But that's coming up this week. We have the back issue of the week YouTube short already on my channel that dropped yesterday morning. 60 seconds about a back issue comic book that's in my collection. So check all of that out and more fun content coming to the channel in the future. Thanks for making it to the end of this Comic Book Editions video. Have a safe, healthy, successful week, and I look forward to visiting again with you soon. Take care.